Beware spoilers. I am Adam. Let's talk about the finale, thankfully, of the Book of Boba Fett, which means we no longer have to watch the show. So we all win in this situation. Now, here's the problem. This show feels very disjointed, I guess would be the right word. In so much as it feels like it didn't quite know what it wanted to do. The flashbacks that we got early on in the show feel like the wrong flashbacks for the type of show this was striving to be and what they were trying to get to in the third act. I know they wanted the big moment to reveal Cad Bane, and you couldn't do that if you set him up earlier in the show. But I feel like starting the show off with Boba Fett training under Cad Bane, even if we had seen it already on the Clone Wars, is something that should have happened. Because, think back to what they did with Cobb Vanth. Cobb Vanth was not a new character, as evidenced by Chuck Wendig's passive-aggressive tweet about, it'd be nice to get thanked. He wasn't a new character. So when they introduced him, they showed us his backstory. His backstory being, with the Jawas, who had Boba Fett's armor, and all of that. That's an important, it's important to understand who the character is and how he got Boba Fett's armor. But there isn't an implicit understanding that everyone who knows Star Wars had read Aftermath. I had read Aftermath, and I think Aftermath at that point was probably the most famous of the new canon books, because that was the first. Aftermath, and then Empire's End, and the other one were that whole trilogy. Shitty books all around. But they were the first of Disney's new canon. And that made them kind of significant in a way that the other books weren't. So introducing Cobb Vanth as Marshal of Freetown, or Mos Pelgo, or whatever the fuck Moss he was, Marshal of. That's an important piece of information that is not exactly not explained up until that point. So it does need to be explained, but I don't think that it necessarily... What the fuck? You're a school bus. So I don't know that does need to be explained. I think Cad Bane and his past with Boba Fett is a level of information that needs to be laid out a little more explicitly in the show for the finale to have an emotional resolution. Because that's the thing about TV shows in cinematic universes. I shouldn't need to have watched an animated TV show that aired a decade ago to understand the emotional resolution of this story arc. I shouldn't. And that's the thing, too. I think this comes a little bit from Filoni. Filoni being the one who runs the stuff, and writes a good amount of it. I think that's where a lot of this comes from, is that Filoni assumes that people have seen his stuff. People who have watched his show, who are watching the shows now, have watched the Clone Wars and have watched that other one, the Rebels and all of that. It's not an assumption you can make. You can't make that assumption, because that's a big assumption to make. People have seen this piece of shit show that you watch. I'm not saying it's a piece of shit, but I'm saying it's an animated show, so a lot of people dismissed it purely based on the fact that it was animated. And then you get to the point where it's required viewing to understand the emotional ending. At least when Loki ended on Kang the Conqueror, it wasn't explicitly Kang the Conqueror. And had it not been for the fact that Marvel, when they did their upfronts back in December of 2020, had said, oh, by the way, we have cast Jonathan Majors as Kang the Conqueror for Quantumania, him showing up on that show wouldn't mean that he's Kang the Conqueror. Like, that would be speculation for the next 2 decades, 3 decades. Like, decades, Jesus Christ, years. I'm tired. I'm very tired. Because it's like, that's the thing, is there's a hint that he's Kang the Conqueror. Is I've had many names over the years. I've been called a scientist, a warlord, a conqueror. Like, that would be the thing. And it's like, holy shit, this is the introduction of Kang. And that would have been a cool moment. But because they announced it in advance, it creates that. And we are bringing our knowledge of what's going on the production side of things to the show. And I think that's ultimately where that happens. But here, there's obviously a past between Cad Bane and Boba Fett. There's obviously a past. And it's not explicitly laid out where it's like, okay, so here's the past. Here is, Boba Fett's past with this, guy who looks like a Western gunslinger and an alien Western gunslinger. Here's what they did and why they have a past together. Like, lay it out. Like, that would have been a lot more interesting in terms of flashback. It probably would have been more expensive, too. You have to find a kid to play him. But a young Boba Fett training... You can even hold off on showing who his teacher is for years. Well, I mean, why am I throwing the amount of time so far ahead? You can even, like, you can wait a bit and be like, he has a teacher and there is someone who is training him in the ways of being a bounty hunter. Like, that's something that can be done, and there is a way to do that works and seems and would be entertaining. But the issue is that this show didn't do that. They showed us him fucking around in the desert with the fucking Tusken Raiders for 2 episodes or 3 episodes, and it's like, look, that's fine, but then they have the Tusken Raiders all be killed off and have that not mean anything. Where Boba Fett, he uses the thing the way the Tusken Raiders taught him, but I don't think we needed to see that level of exposition to get to that point. I don't think that was necessary. Like, it's not like there's enough there to warrant that happening. And that's the kind of thing where it's like, that's a bad decision. There are a lot of really bad decisions that happen over the course of this show. Like, I will contend that they could have done these final episodes without Mando and Baby Yoda. I don't think they're necessary to this show. Like, yeah, is it amusing? And is it great that we have these two together again going into The Mandalorian Season 3? Yeah. Does it take away some of the impact of the end of, what's it called? The end of, what was that other show? At the end of The Mandalorian Season 2? Well, yeah, because, Luke picks him up and then immediately Mando's like, I want him back, and then, then Baby Yoda chooses to leave. Like, yeah, is there, like, that feels a little bit weird. That feels like an odd decision. But, there's nothing really we can do about that. That's that's another thing that I feel like could have been developed more on The Mandalorian. And we didn't need either character here. Yeah, there's a few cool shots of The Mandalorian teaming up with Boba Fett, and that's cool and all, and, I don't think that's enough to warrant it happening. It's, in the same way that I don't think that, the cute scenes of Baby Yoda, like, jumping into his arms, or, like, him in the little Baby Yoda pod on the Naboo starfighter, I don't think that like that's enough to warrant having Baby Yoda make an appearance on this show. Nor do I think Baby Yoda flying an X-Wing to fucking Tatooine is necessary. And I feel like there's a lot going on here. And there are so many other characters that could have come into this show and did their... Well, what the fuck? And did their thing, and did their thing and did it better. I don't think that what they showed us was necessarily the best possible option for this show. On any front. I don't think there's any decision here that feels like it worked. Like the finale, like for the first time since they started doing Star Wars on Disney Plus, which admittedly is not that long. There was 2 seasons of Mandalorian and now Book of Boba Fett. I fell asleep during this episode, and I was like, wait, what the fuck? Where am I? And then I had to backtrack all the way. I'm like, could I just say that I watched it? No, but like, I missed all the fighting, and it's like, even the fighting wasn't that interesting. Like, there are characters that we assumed would come back in this show. Because of, what they're doing with the broader Star Wars universe. Like, I assumed that they would be bringing in, what's it called? They would be bringing in, Han Solo. Because that's the thing, too. It's like, after all of this, Boba Fett gets his armor back, Boba Fett's back out of it, and Boba Fett's getting revenge on Jabba. But, like, not the motherfucker who threw you into the Starlight Pit in the first place. That guy, you're not going to go after him. He's still alive, and he's out there somewhere. You're not going to go out and try and track down Han Solo and try and settle a blood feud. You're going to sit here and fucking settle down on the shittiest planet in the universe. And I'm so fucking tired of Tatooine. Oh my god. Can we stop with this bullshit? Like, I don't care about Tatooine. I don't, like, and now, well, at least the next show won't have that. Oh no, the next show is fucking, Kenobi. It's this shithole planet in the middle of fucking nowhere that no one cares about, and all of a sudden, it's like a focal point for all the galactic nonsense that happens over the course of all these fucking movies and shows. What the fuck? Like, it seems like a waste. Like, at least when they did it on The Mandalorian, fucking asshole in a Tesla. At least when they did it on The Mandalorian, it felt like The Mandalorian had waited a little bit before jumping into, doing Tatooine. Like, they didn't get there until, like, episode 6, if I remember correctly. Like, at least with that, they waited. But then it's like all of Book of Boba Fett is on Tatooine. And there is no reason for it to be entirely on Tatooine. Absolutely none. They could have gone anywhere else. They could have had him, like, him taking control of Jabba's, affairs is the least interesting thing. Because the thing is, the flashbacks should be explaining, oh wait, why is he settling down here? Why is this where he's going to, make his mark and put down his roots? Why is this the place? What happened in the things leading up to, him falling into the Starlight Pit? Or even after him falling into the Starlight Pit that makes him want to stay there? And not just be like, let me just get revenge for killing all the Tuskens who I worked with, and then leave. Like, there are so many weird decisions in this show that it's like, I don't have a reason to emotionally resonate with Boba Fett. And if your main character is not emotionally resonant, then you're fucking up somewhere. Like, that's like the epitome of fucking up. Like, I need to be able to look at your main character and be like, I understand why he's doing what he's doing. Like, I don't have to agree with what he's doing, but I have to understand where he's coming from and why he's doing what he's doing. This show does nothing to do that. It's just, okay, here's Boba Fett. He is now a fucking mob boss. Like, alright, cool. Why? Because that's not who we were introduced to in the show previously. We were not introduced to Boba Fett, the mob boss. We were introduced to Boba Fett, the bounty hunter. What happened that caused that change? And if you want to say he only did this to get revenge on the Pikes and take down the Pikes, fine. But then have the Pikes be a one-season villain and deal with them and then move on. That could have been what happened here, and then you don't need to worry about, all of this nonsense. You could do it for more seasons. But I did not need to see The Mandalorian. I did not need to see Baby Yoda. I did not need to see Luke Skywalker. I did not need to see Ahsoka. I did not need to see Cobb Vanth. None of this does anything to help. Especially considering Cobb Vanth getting shot has very minimal impact on the plot. And then he's okay at the end anyway, so who gives a shit? I don't know. I went into Book of Boba Fett not caring about it, but I thought that, there have been other shows that Marvel's done where it's like, I don't care, but then I left caring about it. To an extent, I left liking Hawkeye more than I thought I would. I still didn't particularly love it, but there were moments that I loved in that show. The team, the resolution to Yelena wanting to kill Clint is a great moment. Everything with Kingpin in that final episode is a great thing. That fight between Kate and Kingpin, fantastic. Kate and Yelena, anytime they're on screen together, fantastic. I can't wait for them to team up in another thing. All of that, really awesome, really fun. But, I still didn't, love the show, and it could have done less episodes. But Book of Boba Fett, nothing happens in this show to make me change my mind about it. Where it's I don't need to see what happened to Boba Fett after he, is resurrected. I don't care. And it's that's the problem, is that nothing's happening in this show. Nothing is happening in this show. And it's look, if the Pikes are, that should have been the end result of the show. If I'm doing this show, I'm showing Cad Bane and baby, Boba in flashbacks. I'm showing, what happened to him on his last missions to make him be desensitized to the life of being a bounty hunter. And I'm showing him, because even, on fucking, I don't know, it just seems so weird that, the decision he has to, do what's it called, to go out and stop being a bounty hunter is based entirely on, getting revenge on Jabba, but not getting revenge on Han Solo. It just seems so weird to me. But we'll wrap up there for today. Tomorrow I'll be seeing Death on the Nile. Today I will not. Yesterday I was going to, but there was a file corruption at the movie theater, so I didn't get to see it. I was sitting in the theater, and the manager came in because the screen was off, and he's like, "The file is corrupted. Have a good evening." And we all left, so did not get to see Death on the Nile. But I'll see it Friday or Saturday. And tomorrow morning, get ready for Peacemaker episode 7. So until then, have a great rest of your week.